Let's go right to the situation in the Middle East, particularly with the so-called Islamic State, ISIS, and their incursions into Iraq, taking so much territory in the north and the west. We know that their origins began principally in Syria. We recently heard former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton talk about what she saw as a failure to help build a credible fighting force among the Free Syrian Army against President Bashar al-Assad way back, when there was an uprising against him. She says that this created a big vacuum which the jihadi forces, such as al-Nusra and, of course, the Islamic State, ISIS, have filled. Would you agree with that?
No, I don't. I don't agree with that at all. I think the mistake there was in saying at the outset that Bashar al-Assad would go, he will go, and he must go, leaving the impression that this was a major objective of the United States behind which we would put whatever was necessary to achieve it. It wasn't moderates versus jihadis or whatever. The issue was, were we in fact committed to the removal of the Assad regime? Rhetorically, we were. In other terms, we were not. And very quickly, the situation in Syria fractured along ethnic and sectarian lines in ways that we couldn't hope to control. I don't think forming some sort of moderate force, if indeed that would have been possible at the outset, was the answer. And I don't think failing to do it was the mistake. We simply overreached. We had assumptions that were wrong about the staying power of the regime and its relationship to Syrian society. We didn't cooperate effectively with those who really were committed to getting rid of the Assad regime, the Saudis, the Qataris in particular. And we're left with a mess, more than a mess. It's a very dangerous situation.
Well, that is probably an understatement, as you said, and now we're looking at the situation in Iraq. They have made incursions into northern Iraq. We know that that's been compounded by the fact that Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki has refused to step down, but we now have a new nominated interim Prime Minister. We'll see how that goes, but I'd like to get your assessment of the situation in Iraq as ISIS continues to surge and the U.S. is trying to contain its gains through both military strikes and military assistance to the Kurds. What do you think the prospects are for checking ISIS and for political reconciliation in Iraq?
I think the prospects for political reconciliation in Iraq are poor. The Kurds are already on their way out of Iraq and into independence. I don't see them turning back. The Shia in Iraq are themselves divided into several factions having to do with their relationship and attitude toward Iran. And the Sunnis have been, in effect, co-opted, at least for the time being, by this Islamic State. The Islamic State is different from previous opponents we have faced. It is hardcore. It is well-trained as a result of a Darwinian process of natural selection of fighting the U.S. in Iraq and the Assad forces in Syria. It's tough, it's organized, it is well-led, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. In fact, we are, I think, left with a situation in which the only hope we have for the collapse of this menace is its own internal mistakes. It has shown, these people have shown in the past that they will overreach, that they will commit atrocities against their own kind, so that they fall from grace in the eyes of the ordinary people, lose support, and become vulnerable. But short of that, these guys are on a roll, and it's not going to be stopped anytime soon.
Do you think that ISIS poses not only a threat to Syria and Iraq, but also the entire region? And do you think they have any sights on striking Western European targets?
These are people who do not believe in national borders. They believe in a community constructed around Islam and their very deviant and peculiar view of Islam. They don't agree with what Mr. Sykes and Monsieur Picot did in creating Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Palestine, still less Israel, a sixth state that emerged from that colonial exercise. They don't agree with any of that and have said explicitly that they're determined to destroy it. They also have as an explicit objective striking the American homeland to the extent the United States opposes them, which we obviously do and are. So this is a very disruptive, destabilizing, and globally menacing development, in my view.